Hello, folks. I'm Grant. This is the Bird Emergency. This is also not just another podcast. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I'm grumpy. And it's got nothing to do with Donald Trump for a change. What I want to do today is let's have a look at this latest de-extinction bullshit. What I would particularly like to know is your take on the latest de-extinction bullshit. And am I being unfair by referring to the concept of de-extinction for the dire wolf, the Tasmanian devil, the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine, the dodo? Are we now just a complete and absolute misinformed society of idiots? I'm really concerned about this stuff. Let me get to what I wanted to focus on. There's a lot of stuff I've been looking at today, and it's really distressing. It's really disappointing. It's really disappointing. So I do want to I'm going to share a couple of videos and some news articles. And I'm going to reserve my comment until we get to the end, pretty much. Let me also take all right. Let's get over here. Now, this is on News Nation. Now, I don't know if you know about News Nation, but let me tell you just a little bit about News Nation. News Nation has its star is Chris Cuomo, who was a big deal on, was it CNN or MSNBC? I cannot remember. Brother of the former mayor of New York, power broker in the Democratic Party in the US, and now running for mayor again. Now, I'm going to line up a couple of these clips and then play another one and look at some articles. And then we're going to examine how easily we are all trapped in some of this bullshit. Let me just make sure that I've got the audio on. That looks good. Let's go. if you can't.
I'm thinking back to Jurassic Park and that scene where they take the DNA out of like a mosquito that's in sap or something. Let's back this up a little bit and rewind and tell us how this was even able to come into fruition.
They extracted from specimens that were 13,000 years old and 72,000 year olds, and they made 20 gene edits across 14 different genes, 15 of which were directly from ancient DNA, and basically plugged that into a gray wolf in order to replicate the things that you're seeing here, like a long white coat, bigger ears, a larger size, cold adapted. And these are the things that make up genetically a dire wolf. So they've taken a gray wolf and turned it into something that represents a dire wolf. That this animal will never be released back into the wild. That was never an intent for that. This was just to show a proof of concept.
I'm going to play that again because it did seem to hiccup a bit there. So let's. I'll just line this one up to get that set up in another. Let's just replay that one again. Sorry.
I'm thinking back to Jurassic Park and that scene where they take the DNA out of like a mosquito that's in sap or something. Let's back this up a little bit and rewind and tell us how this was even able to come into fruition.
They extracted from specimens that were 13,000 years old and 72,000 year olds, and they made 20 gene edits across 14 different genes, 15 of which were directly from ancient DNA, and basically plugged that into a gray wolf in order to replicate the things that you're seeing here, like a long white coat, bigger ears, a larger size, cold adapted, and these are the things that make up genetically a dire wolf. So they've taken a gray wolf and turned it into something that represents a dire wolf. That this animal will never be released back into the wild. That was never an intent for that. This was just to show a proof of concept.
Now that guy was Forrest Gallant. Now, we've covered Forrest Gallant before, I do believe, on this show, and he's a wildlife biologist, is what that terminology was there. We can deny that. I don't know why Google Chrome wants to record my screen. Okay. Let's just go through a couple of these videos. Oh, comments. I should have said hello, but please comment. Add your thoughts. What have we got here? Comment. Okay. Let's just work out who this person was. This is the one that I just asked. Oh, Environmental Coffee House. Hello, how are you? Let me put my specs on so I can actually see what's what. I'm watching, but I'm too tired to chat. Very good. Oh well, let's see. Environmental Coffee House says that they did their show on this morning. Let's see if we're in similar place here. I just want this to share this tab instead. Come on, share this tab instead. Come on. Here we are. Okay. Now this is the company that where's the share? Come on, share. this is, I'll have a new computer in a couple of weeks. So we'll be able to get over some of this annoyingness that there we go. Let's play this one again. Just make sure we've got enough volume on here. All right. This is from Colossal Bioscience. This is the company that claims to have de-extincted the direwolf. And when I say claim, I want you to bear that in mind, because we're going to have some very interesting material to examine in a moment. By the way, I might say I'm not a biologist. I'm a horticulturist. I'm a loudmouth here. But I'm someone who is passionate about conservation. And why I am so enthusiastically discussing this is that we are getting lost. We are, in my view, we are being led along a path by people who may not have conservation of particular species at the forefront of their concerns when they're getting involved in all of this. All right. This is titled "Why Bring Back the Direwolf?" 6 days ago. Thankfully, it's only had 192,000 views, but
I think the direwolf is absolutely a symbol of hope. For one thing, to bring something back from extinction, it's a transformational moment in human history, right? This is something that's never been done before. But it's also extraordinary because, along with the concept of moonshots and what they bring along the journey.
By the way, did you see what this person's title is? This is not, I don't believe this is someone from Colossal Bioscience. No, this is a conversation that Colossal has had with the Emeritus Professor of Law and Bioethics, Alta Charo. This is who we have here now. So this is not someone from Colossal Bioscience, but it is a Colossal Bioscience video. Okay, I just want to get that clear. I'm not saying that this is the people from Colossal Bioscience.
This is something that's never been done before, but it's also extraordinary because, along with the concept of moonshots and what they bring along the journey, you have the direwolf that comes back from extinction, but along the way what you've done is you've learned all these things you need to know to help salvage populations that haven't gone extinct yet. That's the joy of it, right? You do something that is exciting and cool, but along the way you have to invent technologies to get you to that moon, and the technologies turn out to have all these side benefits. There are many people who talk about the risks of going forward with something. It might fail, it might have an unintended effect, it might grow out of proportion. If we're going to talk about risks, you also have to talk about the risk of doing nothing. And unfortunately, we know what that risk looks like. It looks like what we're doing now, which is watching thousands and thousands of species on the brink of extinction.
Extinction is a colossal problem. Some scientists have estimated that by 2050, half of all species that are alive today will be extinct. The truth is that extinction happens. Species come and species go, and extinction has happened throughout evolutionary history. But right now, the rate of extinction is estimated to be 1,000 to 10,000 times faster than the base rate in the fossil record. And a lot of that is our fault. We need a solution.
Every single project that we do at Colossal, we're focusing on building technologies that can help conservation. You know, we do not decouple de-extinction from species preservation. We think they go hand in hand.
If we want a future that is both biodiverse and filled with people, we are going to have to become more efficient gardeners of the ecosystems of this world. These technologies make that possible.
So here, in the work toward de-extincting a particular species, we learn all the ways in which we can identify the precise genes necessary for key attributes so that when we look at an endangered species and we look at its habitat changing, we can say, well, now I understand better how I might be able to help it adapt to a slightly warmer, slightly drier, slightly saltier kind of environment and prevent it from going extinct, even as we work in other areas to try and slow the change in the habitat itself. From the very beginning, Colossal has been very clear about its support for the conservation community and the goals of conservation. And it has been very active in trying to reach out to groups that are embedded in that world, as well as to reach out to populations, indigenous and others, that have been at the forefront of that conservation movement. And it's been offering its assistance, financial and technological and intellectual, to these communities from its very beginnings. So this is a company that has always seen de-extinction as its moonshot and conservation as the journey that accompanies that moonshot along the way.
Our long-term goal is to build this end-to-end de-extinction toolkit that any government, conservation group, or organization that wants to leverage the technologies for species preservation can do so for free. So currently, we're actually working with Bridget Von Holt and a team of folks on the red wolf, which is a critically endangered wolf species here in America, and we have a lot of biobank samples from it. We can now do genetic analysis to understand which is the most genetically diverse founder lines that have been frozen, and then we can use our technology to clone those wolves and bring them back, so we can not only just reintroduce and make more red wolves, but reintroduce the right red wolves with the right level of genetic diversity so that that population can thrive again.
The ability to introduce more genetic diversity into the red wolf population because of the Colossal Direwolf project is enormous, because what it does is it strengthens the red wolf population for the future, and it expands its numbers as well as increases its resilience, its ability to withstand the next accident, the next disease, the next catastrophe.
Wolves are ecosystem engineers. They are such an important presence in American ecosystems that they change the way everything beneath them is configured, right down to the grasses and trees that grow along streams. Native people clearly regarded wolves as teachers, as totem animals, as animals that they modeled themselves after. And one of the reasons for that is because American Native people never really domesticated ungulate herding animals, and so the wolf was not thought of as a menace or a threat. By contrast, the people who arrived from the old world, Europeans in particular, had been herding animals that they had domesticated, sheep and goats and cattle and so forth, for 8,000 years. And so for many thousands of years, old worlders had thought of wolves as a menace and had folded those ideas really into their philosophies and religions with respect to wolves. We're a part of the evolutionary stream of the planet. We're kin to every other species out there. I think we have a responsibility to correct our mistakes from the past.
Right now we're sitting in the middle of this beautiful, secure, expansive ecological preserve that our direwolves call home. So even though this looks like a little piece of the wild, this is actually a really well thought out, secure facility. In addition to multiple layers of containment or fencing that help keep the wolves safe and happy and healthy right here in their preserve, it also keeps people away. In addition to keeping people away, we're always monitoring the animals and the area around them. So we've been working with American Humane to try to identify what are the key welfare components that we should be focusing on so that we can make sure that our direwolves experience optimal welfare. Being the first of their species to return to Earth in the last 12,000 years, there obviously weren't mothers that were readily available to gestate our direwolves. So our direwolves were raised through surrogacy of a domestic dog. The welfare of that domestic dog, of that surrogate, is as important to us as it was the direwolf. So we began working with American Humane Society to find best homes for these dogs after they raised their litters.
I do think we have a moral obligation to help restore the ecosystems and to heal the planet. I think we have that obligation both because in many cases it is damage we have caused, and also because I think that even if it's damage that was done by some event out of our control, we are stewards of this earth and of this environment. And that is something that transcends politics, it transcends religions. You know, it was Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, who really founded the modern conservation movement's political underpinnings. It was a Democrat, Franklin Roosevelt, who built up the Conservation Corps. It is Christianity that, in its concept of dominion over the earth, includes this notion of responsible stewardship. It is Hinduism that celebrates the idea of the diversity of the biota. It is Islam that thinks of humans as partners in creation. And it is Judaism with this concept of tikkun olam and repairing the world. Across all these different varieties of religion and politics, we find the same impulse, which is that we are part of something larger than ourselves. And of course we have to take care of it because we have the ability to do so.
Darwin essentially confirmed with science what I think indigenous people had long been trying to tell us, which is we are part of the kinship network, in Darwin's instance, the evolutionary river of Earth. We are right in the middle of it. History has an arc, it's got a trajectory, and that trajectory is pointing us towards a more optimistic outlook, it seems to me. I mean, there are a lot of instances where, to be sure, one can become discouraged and give up, but my reading of history is that there's cause for optimism, and an organization like Colossal, to me, is one of the things that gives me hope.
Feeling optimistic, folks? Now, I've read The Origin of the Species. I must have read a different book to that dude. Okay. I want to ask you, dear viewers, Environmental Coffee House, I want all of you who are watching to just tell me, this is a yes or no question. So in the comments, just pop in a yes or no question. From what you have seen in the news, because I'm sure you've seen this on your local news and heard it on the radio, has Colossal Biosciences created a direwolf from genetic material of a direwolf, an animal that has not existed on the face of the earth for about 12,000 years by estimates? Is that your understanding of the situation here? Just quickly, Facebook and YouTube on Twitch, and of course, YouTube. Just a yes or a no, or a question mark. That would be acceptable, just so we get an idea of what your understanding of the way you have ingested this story, and that we can take it from there. Now, just let me find another one here. I think that's all the videos. So I've got a bunch of websites I want to have a look at. But I want to be a bit controversial here. I'm generally not a huge critic of Leonardo DiCaprio and his take on environmental issues, but he's right behind this, apparently. The Hemsworth brothers, that trio of goodness, they're all behind this, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. Come on, Environmental Coffee House, I want you to get out of bed if you're in bed. Facebook, Twitch, just tell me, from your understanding of what we've just seen, and I'm sure you've had this pop up on your local news and your national news. This is a big story for the last week. Did they use any? Hello, Charlie. Charlie said, "I think he's saying I don't know," rather than saying, "What the hell are you on about, Grant?" Okay, so you don't know. I'll put that in the don't know column. Would anyone else like to venture an opinion before we move on to my next piece of evidence here? I'm not anywhere near as rolled up as I expected to be just talking about this, but I probably will be as we get deeper into the motivations and how. My concern is how people's good instincts and motivations to do good things get molded and, in my mind, abused. But let's I'm going to get into the bit where let me get into the next it does take a little while to sorry folks, we're only another week or so away from having a new computer, and then I'll be able to do things the way I used to, and everything will be fantastic again. And come on. Get this tab instead. I could probably close this one. Okay, that's the news station one. We can kill that. I'll need to close everything while we're going on with the new one. We can get rid of Colossal. They can piss off. Let's get back here. Let's reload that page. Oh, sorry, folks. So this is a real disaster. Let's share this and see if we can get this happening. Okay, we've got the right page up again. Let's just get it. Thank you. Come on. Oh, boy, oh, boy. I have to get over here. Oh, this is annoying. Come on. Come on. This one. We've got out. Come on. Come on. Anyone else having a vote? Was it the actual direwolf? Is that what we've... Come on. Not that one. Oh, folks, come I've got too many tabs open, I think. This is what happens with a crappy old computer. Yeah. Oh, what? What? Truth. Folks. Something's going on and it's not good. Is that the one I want? No. Back. I don't want to watch one of my old videos. Nobody wants to watch that. All right, we're going to have to go back through YouTube. Feel free to buy me a coffee to help me replace this ancient computer so that I can go back to doing things the way I used to do. This just makes me want to give up. Now my wireless is dropped off. Just about everything, eh? Not good, not good. That one can go. Bear with me, folks. I haven't even got any background music to play yet. I can't even do any of that these days. All right, here we go. Looks like YouTube's coming back so that I can play this. Tell me your favourite thing that's happened in the last day or two while we're going through this. Okay, we're going to exit that. I don't know what's going on. This isn't going to work. I might have to stop wasting all your time. Oh, here we go. Looks like we're getting somewhere. Let's see. Come on. YouTube's kind of loading. Come on. Come on, YouTube. Come on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, look. We've even got me up there. That's not what I want. What I want is my history. I want my history. Let's go up here. Come on. You probably all dropped off now. And then it's not even in my history. Oh, I know why. I know why. Bear with me, folks. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. Because I was watching on a different channel. Oh, by the way, the bird emergency, I think we got to 35,000 views in the last few days. So that was pretty fun. It's not a lot, but it's pretty significant for the bird emergency. All right, come. All right. Found it. Found it. Now we can share. When it eventually comes up. Here we come. This is good. Now, I did ask the question. Do you think that they actually de-extincted the direwolf? And we've seen a law professor, and we've seen a wildlife biologist who makes sensational YouTube videos about, well, he's done a lot about the...
Welcome back, friends. You've probably seen these headlines. A biotech company called Colossal Biosciences claims to have bred dire wolves, an extinct species of canines that were made famous by George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones. Are we going to talk about George R.R. Martin holding...
Oh, come on. Don't die me now. This is about 10 minutes too, by the way, but it's good stuff. Come on. This person is an actual biologist too, by the way.
These for publicity, not writing a book? Or are we not going to go for him? I'm just saying. I think we should. Just write the book! I don't even care if it's good at this point. You've probably also seen that there was immediate and widespread pushback from the scientific and conservation community. So what actually happened? Have dire wolves really been brought back from extinction? And what
Come on.
are dire wolves exactly? Hey everyone, I'm KP. I'm a biologist and conservation advocate. In the Game of Thrones series, dire wolves are portrayed as a species of wolf that are highly intelligent and as big as a horse. They only inhabit the cold winter north, and everyone south of the wall believes they are extinct. In reality, dire wolves inhabited a large range of the Americas during the late Pleistocene and early Holocene epochs. That's from like 10,000 to 150,000 years ago. Their remains have been found in the plains, grasslands, and forested areas of North America, and even in the arid savanna of South America, where they preyed on mega herbivores like ground sloths, mastodons, and American camels. American camels? all of which went extinct near the end of the last ice age during what's known as the late Pleistocene extinctions, which I talked about in my video on stellar sea cow that you can find right up here. This massive extinction event saw 65% of the world's megafauna disappear. Animals like...
Just interrupt there for a minute. Did you see what she showed on screen? An actual research paper from actual scientists. Ooh.
The Siberian rhinoceros, saber-toothed cats, short-faced bears, and woolly mammoths all went extinct because of a combination of climate change and the spread of early humans. The majority of direwolf fossils came from the La Brea tar pits of Los Angeles. Only 5 recorded direwolf fossils have been found north of the 42nd parallel. So contrary to their fictional portrayal, direwolves were not a northern cold weather species. They also weren't as big as a horse. In reality, they were about the same size as 2 extant subspecies of gray wolf, specifically the Yukon wolf and the northwestern wolf. Unfortunately, the direwolf genome is largely fragmented and degraded, making it difficult to reconstruct. Most attempts to extract mitochondrial DNA from the skeletal remains found at La Brea have failed, and that's because the tar...
What was that? What was that? Let's hear that again.
Unfortunately, the direwolf genome is largely fragmented and degraded, making it difficult to reconstruct. Most attempts to extract mitochondrial DNA from the skeletal remains found at La Brea have failed, and that's because the tar could not be separated from the bone material. However, in 2021, researchers successfully sequenced nuclear DNA from 5 direwolf fossils and found that direwolves weren't wolves at all. They were more closely related to jackals, dholes, and African wild dogs. So while
What? Direwolves aren't wolves? What? Direwolves are not wolves?
dire wolves and gray wolves looked similar and occupied similar ecological niches, dire wolves diverged from ancestral gray wolf populations over 6 million years ago with no evidence of gene exchange. But if dire wolves weren't wolves, how come they looked like wolves? There's a 2-part answer to this question. The first part is convergent evolution. That's where independent species evolve similar features. An example of convergent evolution is how dolphins and sharks both have dorsal fins despite not really being closely related at all. The second and more important answer is we don't actually know that direwolves did look like wolves. For some extinct species like mammoths and saber-toothed cats, we have mummified remains that are extraordinarily well preserved. We know what their skin looked like, we know what their fur looked like, and we even know what they ate because their stomach contents has also been preserved. But we don't have that for dire wolves. This raises the question, why did the biotech company use gray wolves to create these so-called dire wolves? Why didn't they use the more closely related African wild dogs? I think the answer is because gray wolves look like what we think dire wolves should look like. The company compared the genomes of gray wolves to the fragmented genome of dire wolves and found a few specific genetic differences that influenced appearances, like the shape of their ears. Then they made 20 changes to just 14 genes among the 2.5 billion base pairs in gray wolf germline cells. I
just want to go back there to the key. See if you can find the key part of the text here. No actual direwolf DNA was spliced into the grey wolf DNA. Then they took the modified grey wolf DNA, inserted it into dog ova that had the dog's genetic material removed, and placed 45 of those engineered embryos into 8 surrogate dogs. So they used a dog, okay. We do that. We do that with people here, surrogacy. We do it with cows, do it with sheep. That's not where I'm getting a bit upset by this. No actual direwolf DNA was spliced into the grey wolf DNA. So let me just be crystal clear. They are saying that the direwolf was very closely related to a grey wolf, and they've altered the grey wolf using what they thought was genetic code from the direwolf to create a direwolf from a grey wolf. But there is no, they haven't got any DNA that they could have spliced in. All they've done is edit grey wolf DNA so that they look like what they think a direwolf would look like, when a direwolf is, they should have been using, if they were going to use anything, a jackal or a Cape hunting dog. So we've got one wildlife biologist who has pointed this out so far.
Genes among the 2.5 billion base pairs in grey wolf germline cells. 5 of these gene edits are just mutations known to produce a lighter colored coat. So let's be clear what happened here. Colossal Biosciences didn't splice ancient dire wolf DNA into a grey wolf's genome. In fact, these dire wolves don't have any dire wolf DNA in them at all. They are 100% pure grey wolves who were genetically modified to look like what we think dire wolves might have looked like. And by we, I mean the general population who have been influenced by media like Game of Thrones. We don't actually know that dire wolves had white coats. In fact, they probably did not. Like I said, dire wolves lived in habitats like prehistoric Los Angeles, and studies on the paleology of LA found that the climate of prehistoric Southern California was roughly the same then as it is now. Warm and shrubby with very little snow, so white fur would not make sense for that habitat. When confronted with the question, so these pups aren't really dire wolves at all then? The chief science officer answered, species concepts are human classification systems, and everybody can disagree and everyone can be right. No, everyone can't be right? That might be the most unscientific thing I have ever heard of in my life, and in fact it is ironically a very false statement. She also added, we are using...
Thank goodness for KP, Kay Passionate, a wildlife biologist, who seems to be saying something that I would have thought every science journo may have been able to say in their reporting.
And in fact, it is ironically a very false statement. She also added, we are using the morphological species concept and saying if they look like this animal, then they are the animal.
I guess a platypus is a duck. What? I mean, I'm speechless here. I'm speechless here. I don't want you to miss that. Let's go back. This is important.
Be the most unscientific thing I have ever heard of in my life, and in fact it is ironically a very false statement. She also added, we are using the morphological species concept and saying if they look like this animal, then they are the animal. It's like kind of like a he who smelt it dealt it. This is why scientists everywhere are screaming. It's a bit like the guy, I don't know if you've seen this, there's a guy in the Chinese zoo who had these dogs that he painted to look like pandas. Meanwhile, people who know better are looking at this dire wolf story, scratching their heads, saying, you've got a gray wolf that's white. That's not a dire wolf under any definition of species ever. As Dr. David Schiffman said on Blue Sky, there's a lot of different definitions of what constitutes a species, and those differences are interesting. But these are not dire wolves by any definition. And no, you can't, not everyone can be right. Where are they keeping them?
They haven't said.
They can't. They can't let them breed with normal gray wolves. This is insane, actually. Subscribers and my regular viewers already know that I have a bit of a reputation as being a science Karen for debunking things like this. And every time I do, people in the comments section are like, who cares if it's fake? What does it matter? You didn't debunk anything. You just showed us how foolish you are. Honestly, I kind of like being called science Karen, not just because it has a nice ring to it, but because bad science and misleading claims can do a lot of real life harm. Because misinformation leads to misinformed opinions, or worse, misinformed and misguided policies.
Sorry, I just noticed a bunch of people dropped off when she said that. So I'm guessing there's probably people who have tuned in just because they wanted to hear how good de-extinction is and got upset when Kay Passionate, a wildlife biologist, has called this out for the bullshit that it is. Let's come back just a bit. And this segment of this video is called How to Push Back, because it's important.
And misleading claims can do a lot of real life harm. Because misinformation leads to misinformed opinions, or worse, misinformed and misguided policies. Is this sounding familiar? It's feeling very real. In the case of the dire wolves, the story is already being used by government officials to justify taking animals off the endangered species list or eliminating the endangered species list altogether and the protections that come along with that. Even if this dire wolf story was true, and it's not, de-extinction is not an effective way to protect endangered species, and it's definitely not a replacement for conservation. A single dire wolf cost millions and millions of dollars to produce. It is way cheaper to simply protect the animals that we have. Again, quoting Dr. Schiffman, even if we make it 10,000 times cheaper, it will still be much cheaper and more effective to stop species from going extinct than to genetically engineer them back from extinction, which again, they didn't even do in the first place. This is a story about nothing. This is the Seinfeld of scientific discoveries. Bringing a species back from extinction without resolving the conservation problem that caused them to go extinct makes no damn sense. They'll just go extinct again. So what can we do to push back against attempts to use this nonsense to eliminate protections for endangered species? Well, as one of my Discord followers put it, make a big fuss. And they shared this link from Monterey Bay Aquarium's latest newsletter. It is a form that you can email your US representative and US senators today and tell them that this, along with everything else that is going on, is genetically modified dog shit. Links in the descriptions and the pinned comment. Make your voice heard. Are you a badger? I think you're a badger. Today you're a badger. Congratulations.
It's the dire ferret.
You've just reached dire ferret status. I'm going to post about it.
Okay.
This is insane.
Stop. Kay Passionate. Okay. We've watched her whole video. Are you convinced? Are you convinced? Which case do you think was based in science? That the direwolf has been brought back, or that it's just a toasty load of frog shit? Now, I wanted to just talk about it briefly. We're going to have a look at the way this has been covered in a lot of the media, and I am going to have a look at some Australia. I'm a little bit confused and concerned about how it was covered a little bit. I'm just waiting for things to load again, folks. Is anyone convinced? Is anyone in the chat so far convinced that the direwolf was brought back from extinction? and that we're really looking forward to the mammoth coming back, or maybe American camels. That one would be a ripper, wouldn't it? Where can we have the this one looks like it's going to load, is it? Yeah, this one. Come on. Let's, sorry, folks. I really thought we'd have a lot more people with opinions today. Maybe nobody's got my. I don't know. Somebody got my notifications because Environmental Coffee House and Charlie have rocked up, so that's good. Oh, this is. We'll just tab instead. Kill this one. Close that tab. Oh, folks. This is the one I really want. Come on. So there's a whole lot of different takes that people are trotting out there about why we need to worry about this de-extinction model. And one, because it's not de-extinction. That's the first point. Let me get to me without. Oh, Charlie, is that the first you've heard of it? Is that the first you've heard of it? That, well, I'm impressed by that. I mean, it's been on every TV station that I saw in Melbourne. Bear with me, I'm just trying to pull up. I've got some stuff. I want to get into the Hemsworths. We're going to get there. We'll get rid of that. Sorry, folks. I'm just trying to find a page that isn't just constantly reloading so that we can actually have a look. Oh, yeah, I really want to see this one done. Closing everything I possibly can just so that we have a chance to close that. Close all these. That. This might get us there. Good on you for sticking around, those of you who have. Sorry about this. Stop all these papers loading. Yes. Stop. Come with this one and we'll reload it. Ah, look, folks, I cannot believe it. We've been going an hour and most of it's waiting for something to happen. I made a little intermission screen. I think I might make myself a cuppa. Let's see. Have you got an intermission screen? Yes, let's get a be right back screen. Yeah, back ignore the clock. It's taking forever. Let's see what we can close. We'll close down. Charlie. Charlie says, got to go. I'm on the bush on solar. I hope this doesn't change the environmental protections for endangered species. Charlie, after I have my little break and get these reloaded, I'll just let you know what I'm going to get up to. I'm having a look at some of these. You know, there's the Tasmanian devils being put onto a small fenced enclosure at Barrington Tops, and the other projects that the Hemsworths are involved in. You'll love it when you see who the commercial sponsors of these projects are, and your worry that I hope this doesn't change the environmental protections for endangered species is very prescient, because none of the major benefactors and sponsors of the organisations that are pushing this solution are the kinds of organisations that benefit from strong endangered species and other environmental protections. And I will get to that. That's really what I want to show you. And that's what I'm trying to get this stuff. I'm trying to get these, I'm trying to get this to show, but Charlie, I appreciate you being in, and I do understand the issue with being in the bush on solar. You don't need to be wasting your precious saved battery power at 2:44 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time on me when nothing is happening. So I appreciate it. Here we go. All right, we'll share this. We'll share this now. You might. This might be what you're interested in. Now, you might have heard about Aussie Ark. That's the group that dude Tim Faulkner, who took over the Gosford Wildlife Australian Reptile Park. Sharing? Here we go. Yes. Okay. Now, Aussie Ark is the mob that have put the Tassie Devil into a little enclosure. Now, I'm all for having an insurance population of Tassie Devils, but thinking that you're going to have the Tassie Devil in essentially a fenced-in enclosure on the mainland, and that's a good solution, I don't think it's right. But have a look. This is Aussie Ark, and this is the group that are behind that. Safe havens to secure a long-term future for Australia's threatened wildlife, building insurance populations and safe havens to secure a long-term future for Australia's wildlife. That's the scrolling text at the top of this. Our partners. Glencore, a major Australian employer operating for over 20 years. You mean a major Australian mining company sought a local wildlife project. Aussie Ark were great. Australian Power Equipment, AGL, agents for AGL, diverse portfolio including coal, gas, and then wind, solar, and hydro. Now, Wires, I'm not going to criticise Wires. Rewild. Save species, protect wildlands, and build capacity. I'm all for that. But look, the Colossal Foundation. They're one of the major sponsors. Oh, Aussie Ark is built on land owned by the Packer family. Australian Reptile Park is Tim Faulkner. I haven't delved into the Australian Wildlife Park annual report yet, but we will get into that. Ausgrid, Symbio Wildlife Park. I haven't got into them yet. Wild Ark. I've been having a look at Wild Ark. Fame. Sydney Helicopters. Digital Hunter, digital marketing agency. They operate the Parramatta heliport. Wonder why Sydney helicopters are involved. Summersby Animal Hospital. I'm not against that. CRG specialises in contamination and infection control solutions for the Australian pharmaceutical industry. With facilities in Sydney and Melbourne, the company is a subsidiary of Allsco Proprietary Limited and emphasises technical excellence in customer-centric service, focusing on garment processing in clean room environments. And then we get, there's a real estate company in there. But the rest of the people are people with, I think, with their hearts in their right place. So I don't want to be knocking everyone, but did you see a common thread? The major supporters. So I do want to get into that a bit more. So here's my dilemma. Here's my dilemma. I don't want to be totally negative, but safe havens for flora and fauna. I think we're talking about 4,500 hectares. That some of the bigger and they had to use land that was already owned by the Packer family. There's a lot of support us, give us. Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look at Mongo Valley Wildlife Sanctuary. Upper Moongari, 1,500 hectares. Now, that's great. But it's 1,500 hectares. And I just was talking Saturday on habitat gardening. In 10 years, we've destroyed nearly 2 million hectares of koala habitat. But some of the biggest, richest corporations and the Packer family, the fucking Packer family, have managed to squirrel away 1,500 hectares. 1,500 fucking hectares. I mean, one direwolf. Let's turn it into a thylacine, Tasmanian tiger. It's going to cost millions and millions of dollars to produce one. Okay, let me look this up. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look for land for sale in Tasmania. Have a look around Macquarie Harbour. Land for sale. Tasmania. And let's Mania. And let's go Macquarie Harbour. Because that's part of the wildest bit of Tasmania. And I'll see if I can find any that's got a price on it. So far I've got Macquarie Heads. Where's Macquarie Heads? Rural properties for sale in Tasmania. That's what I look at. Where's Macquarie Heads? Look at a map. I'm not getting anything. That's all to land for sale, Tasmania. Let's go Strawn. That's probably the closest. See if we've got any farms. Filters. Oh, filters. Land for sale. Oh, let's call it acreage. Land, rural. Okay, let's see what we've got. That's not finding anything that is large properties. Oh, here we go. That looks pretty good. That's in Zen. How big is it? So it's 395,000 for 38 hectares. But it does have a house on it. So we're going to have to look into that a bit more. I'm wondering. Let's ask Google the price. What do we have? 1,500 hectares for sale. Tasmania. Let's see if we can find something. Rural properties for sale. Smithton. It's all farmland. Well, that's adjacent to. .106 hectares, 81 hectares. I'm just looking for something that might be a big plot of land, but I'm not. Oh, here we are. 634 hectares. That's pretty big. They've got a guide price. But it is a farm. So No. Well, I thought we might be able to. Let's try bushland. Let's see if we can find bushland. Bushland for sale in Western Tasmania. Oh, let's just look in Tasmania. Rural bushland for sale in Tasmania. That might be a better price. They're all farmlets. Oh, here we go. No, sorry, folks. We're not getting anything good out of that. Okay, what I'm going to do, I am going to pull the pin because nothing's loading properly, and I'll have to just produce a video, I think, for this so that I don't waste all of your time. But I do want to go over what, or maybe I'll come back in a little while and I'll download what I want to play, and I think I can play them better than try and load websites. Let's try one more thing. See if this comes up, or if this is not going to come up as well. Doesn't look like it is. Oh, here we go. All right, we're back. All right, now we're things are working. All right. Now I need to share this screen. This is what I wanted to do. Toronto Zoo. So this is CP24. I don't know what CP24 is, but a warning from the Toronto Zoo CEO. Resurrecting the extinct direwolf is an incredibly dangerous move that comes with enormous risk. Now there's a stupid ad that is there. So even this is where I want you to be aware that this is where the disinformation and the problems come out. This is from the CEO of the Toronto Zoo. So we would expect this would be pretty credible and whatnot. And so the quote here, this is the quote from, I don't know if you can really call this a de-extinct direwolf. Dan Riskin, CTV's science and technology specialist, told CP24 in an interview. This is real DNA from the extinct direwolf that's been put into living wolves. They took 20 different genes from the extinct one and put it into a wolf. But if I took 20 genes out of an African wild dog and I put these into a Labrador Retriever, it would still be a Labrador Retriever. Now, he got part of it right. He got the second bit right. But there is no direwolf DNA in the supposed direwolves. Riskin continued to say it is unfair to call these pups full-on direwolves, though they have some pieces of the breed's DNA spliced into them. No, they don't. They have some of their own genes edited to represent features that they think a direwolf may have had. That's like editing a human embryo so that they don't have brown eyes, they have blue eyes. Dolph de Jong, CEO of Toronto Zoo, echoed Rishkin's sentiments that this is not quite the return of direwolves. I'd actually suggest this is the return of the circus. It's really doing some gene editing to hit a few phenotypes, exactly displaying, expressing certain traits that are already there, or stopping the expression of certain traits in the wolf genome. The pieces of how an animal looks and putting it back on the ground, and grey wolves being the key player in this story using their genetic material. And then we've got grey wolves are the dire wolves' closest living relatives that still exist today. No, it's the Cape hunting dog. And jackals are and coyotes are more closely related than the grey wolf. Do you see how junk science gets validated through PR bullshit? Blood cells from a living grey wolf were then taken and genetically modified before being transferred to an egg cell from a domestic dog. So this is the interesting bit. Scientists at Colossal Biosciences said DNA was extracted from a 13,000-year-old direwolf tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull fragment. Now, they did that, right? They did that. And they mapped the genome. They did that. But they did not put that DNA into the grey wolf or the egg, the egg cell from a domestic dog. They didn't do that. They gene edited some grey wolf genetic material and then used a dog as a surrogate. Okay. The community is caught up with the hype, de Jong says. In Toronto Zoo's mission, according to its website, the Toronto Zoo's mission, according to its website, is to connect people, animals, conservation science, and traditional knowledge to fight extinction. De Jong said he wants to make sure that the hype for the claimed de-extinction does not overshadow current conservation efforts. I think our community is being caught up with the hype and the marketing and the propaganda machine and not actually focusing on the core issue, which is the rate that species are going extinct in Canada and beyond every day. De Jong added that he thinks it's an incredibly scary time for people, animals, ecosystems, and the future. We need to focus on our behaviours, our choices, our consumer choices, and be focused on animals that are still living, breathing, and walking on the ground today. So you have an actual scientist again saying this is propaganda bullshit. But even so, a proper scientist has swallowed the PR. Colossal bio-wankers, or whatever they're called, have been very careful to say we've extracted direwolf DNA from these ancient sources. And they haven't said that they have put the direwolf DNA into a grey wolf or a dog. They have said they have spliced and gene edited grey wolf DNA. to express phenological traits that they think the direwolf would have had. But we know that nobody knows what a direwolf looks like, that they were in Game of Thrones. So it must be true. Okay. Let's see if we can get a few more up here. Now, this is the Free Press. It was on the cover of Time magazine. It's on the bloody cover of Time magazine. Let's see what the ABC had to say. If it will load. Please load. Please load. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, this tab instead. There we go. Thank you. That's worked. All right. Now, this is from Danielle Maguire, environment reporter. Oh, and the environment reporter who is Peter de Kruif. Kruif, if I got your name wrong, Peter, I'm sorry. Please let me know if there's a better way to, or a correct way to pronounce it. Okay. There was a lot of hype about the American company's de-extinction, in quotation marks, of direwolves this week. But the significance of the achievement has been polarising. The company said they were direwolf pups. Other geneticists say they were essentially grey wolves with slightly modified genes. It prompted a debate about the difference of resurrecting an extinct species and genetically modifying an existing one. And it raises questions about whether we are now any closer to resurrecting Australia's own wolf, the Tasmanian tiger. It's actually called the thylacine. Okay, the story was everywhere. Okay, it's in Time. Here we go. Let's see if the ABC actually make a call. It was made possible by pulling together most of the direwolf's genome, the complete set of genes that make up an organism from ancient DNA. According to Colossal, the grey wolf shares 99.5% of the same DNA as the direwolf, but you can't clone an animal without living tissue. Actually, so it looks like the ABC's got it right here. So Colossal scientists modified the grey wolf genes, which they used to create embryos that were implanted into surrogate dog mothers that gave birth to pups. They made 20 targeted changes to 15 different grey wolf genes based on analysis of the DNA that they did extract from direwolf bones. Colossal said this means they have functionally de-extincted the direwolf, and that the pups had a close semblance and significant genetic similarity to direwolves of the past. Other geneticists like Emily Roycroft from Monash University's Evolutionary and Conservation Genomes Research Group aren't convinced. This is a grey wolf with an edited genome, not a direwolf. Mark Eldridge, Australian Museum's principal research scientist of land-based vertebrates, thought the de-extinction claim was far-fetched and had overshadowed other aspects of the research. Editing the grey wolf genome and producing viable pups, cloning viable pups, is an achievement. Colossal has only released the research behind mapping the direwolf genome, but not how the pups were created. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Then they go on to the bloke who is behind. Colossal is also working on a project dedicated to the thylacine, better known as the Tasmanian tiger. Tasmanian tigers capture the imagination of Australia, blah, blah, blah. they're really quite different, Andrew Pask says. Dr. Pask is head of the University of Melbourne's Thylacine Integrated Genomic Restoration Research Group, which has teamed up with Colossal on the project. What are fucking Melbourne University doing? What are they doing? He's been championing it for years, but it has its critics. Okay. I just want to get through. So, Pask's team has so far reconstructed a genome they claim to be 99.9% accurate, with a peer-reviewed study on how they did it expected in a few months. I think that's been coming for a little while. So, the closest relative to the Tasmanian tiger is the fat-tailed dunner. Oh, and the quoll and the Tasmanian devil and the numbat. Okay, let's get through here. I'm just looking for something that isn't bullshit. Okay. Okay, Dr. Roycroft said it would be hard to predict whether a resurrected thylacine could survive in the wild with other threats like climate change and introduced species. It's very unlikely that the thylacine will ever be brought back from extinction in a meaningful way. Dr. Pask says, de-extinction science is conservation biology. I don't know, I'm just so grumpy about this. I am going to stop now because we've been going for ages. And I'm going to put together a little video about what Hemsworth is particularly saying. And I want to know, I want to know why someone with his profile, and his ability to, he could get on all the breakfast shows tomorrow morning if he wanted to and talk about preserving habitat, preserving biodiversity. He could endorse candidates in the election who were all for this. But I really want to know if he's invested in this technology. And that's why he's so into it. This is why I get grumpy about people with platforms who don't do everything they can when they say they're into conservation and they love nature. Fuck off, you wankers. I mean, seriously. That's why I get so angry about it. And you look at all the businesses that are supporting these projects. I mean, why didn't the Packers just give the fucking land to the Australian Wildlife Conservancy? Why don't some of these bloody billionaires, the people who own Canva, I can't even remember their friggin' names. All our tech billionaires. Why doesn't the fucking Portelli? I mean, I don't expect a petrol head to really give a fuck, actually. But the largest donor to the Liberal and National parties is Gina Reinhardt. Clive Palmer's a billionaire. These people, if they really, I don't think those two actually give a fuck about any conservation. But the dude who bought into AGL, what's his name? Mike Cannon-Brookes and his partner. They all say they're into conservation. Well, be proactive. Be proactive with your personal fortunes. I know it's difficult when you're using the company fortunes. You got to turn a profit. But you don't have to with your own fucking money, right? Anyway, sorry for the swearing. What are the motivations for these people? I'd love to talk to Tim Faulkner because when he was on Totally Wild for years, and I watched him must have been in my 20s, I guess, maybe my 30s even, when I was watching. I thought, Tim Faulkner, this guy's cool. What's he doing now? Has he given up on actual conservation? Is that what this is about? People have given up on actual conservation? I don't know. All right, I'm going to pull the pin there. We've been going long enough. I could probably rattle on. I've got another 10 things to look at here, but I think I'll make a video and edit it down, and we can play that maybe tomorrow. Thanks again. Thanks, Charlie, for being with us and putting in some comments. Environmental Coffee House, and the rest of you who were on the YouTubes and the Facebook and the Twitch. I'm Grant. This has been the Bird Emergency. Oh, and not just another podcast, because this is pretty political and it belonged there. Follow, like, subscribe, all that stuff, if you found anything that I said useful. And do follow Kay Passionate. I'll have to put the link for her channel in here because that was really, really, really good. I'm not sure I'm going to promote any of the others. See you, folks. Bye.